The cold metal doors of the grand chamber slid open with a slow hiss. Inside, the room was vast and dimly lit, filled with strange symbols glowing faintly on the walls. At the far end stood the alien Empress Sarilith, tall and proud, her eyes shining with a sharp light. Her presence alone commanded respect, or more often, fear. Across the room, a single figure was led forward by two guards. He was a human, a rare sight in this part of the galaxy. His name was Jack. His hands were bound, but his posture was straight, his eyes calm. Unlike many others who had been brought here before, Jack showed no fear. Sarilith's gaze fell on him, cold and calculating. "Kneel," she ordered in a voice that echoed through the chamber. "Show your respect to your new queen." The two guards tightened their grip on Jack's arms. For a moment, he looked down, and then slowly, deliberately, he dropped to one knee. To the Empress, this was the expected sign of submission. A prisoner kneeling before a ruler was a symbol of power and control. But Jack's kneel was different. His face held no shame, only a quiet confidence. The gesture was not weakness, it was something else, something she could not yet understand. Sarilith stepped forward, her tall form casting a long shadow over Jack. "You are far from your home, human. Do you understand what kneeling means in my empire?" Jack looked up at her, meeting her eyes steadily. "Yes," he said simply. "And what does it mean to you?" she pressed. He smiled faintly. "It means many things. But right now it means I'm listening." The Empress narrowed her eyes, intrigued. Most humans she had met before were either broken or desperate. Jack was neither. He was calm, strong in a way that made her uneasy. "Tell me your name, human." "Jack." Sarilith studied him for a moment longer. "Jack, you have been captured in a place far from Earth, your homeworld. You know the penalty for defiance here." Jack nodded. "I know." "Then why do you kneel so willingly? Many would refuse even in chains." Jack's gaze didn't waver. "Because sometimes to win, you need to listen first, to understand, and to wait for the right moment." The Empress let out a soft laugh, a sound both cold and amused. "You speak boldly for a prisoner." "I speak honestly," Jack said. "I'm not here to be a slave, I'm here to survive, and maybe more." Sarilith raised an eyebrow. "More?" "More," Jack confirmed. "I believe humans are more than what you see. We are strong because we adapt, because we never give up." The Empress crossed her arms. "Many have tried to survive your kind's way and failed. You will be no different." Jack shrugged slightly. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm different." The guards moved closer, signaling it was time for the human to be taken away. But Sarilith stopped them with a gesture. "No. Let him stay." Jack looked surprised, then curious. "Why?" "Because you have something I want to understand," she said. "Your spirit, your calm. It is unusual." Jack smiled again, feeling a flicker of hope. The Empress did not yet see him as a threat. Instead, she saw a puzzle. As the guards released his arms, Sarilith continued, "You will remain here under watch, but I will speak with you. There is much to learn from a human who kneels so easily." Jack stood fully now, stretching his legs. "I look forward to it." The chamber doors closed behind the guards, leaving Sarilith and Jack alone. The Empress took a step closer, her voice softer but still strong. "You will find this empire is not kind to those who oppose it." Jack nodded. "I understand. But I also know that sometimes the strongest power comes from the most unexpected places." Sarilith's eyes flashed with interest. "Perhaps. We shall see." Jack looked around the vast chamber, feeling the weight of countless stories told, in silence on the walls. This was his new reality, a place where he was supposed to be weak. Yet he felt ready. For Jack, kneeling was not defeat. It was the start of a plan. The Empress watched him carefully, unaware that in that moment she had awakened something in the human, a quiet determination that would soon change her world forever. The grand chamber grew quiet after the guards had left. The soft hum of the glowing symbols on the walls was the only sound. The alien Empress Saralith stood tall and still, studying Jack with a sharp gaze. She could not shake the feeling that this human was unlike any other prisoner she had ever known. Jack, standing firm despite the weight of his chains now removed, met her eyes calmly. He did not speak immediately. Instead, he took in the strange room, the strange symbols, and the powerful presence before him. He knew that this moment was more than just captivity. It was a test. Saralith finally broke the silence. "You are not like the others. You do not fear me." Jack smiled gently. Fear can be useful, but it is better to understand. The Empress raised an eyebrow. "Understanding comes with knowledge. What do you know of my empire?" Jack thought carefully. "I know it is vast, powerful, and that it demands obedience." Saralith nodded slowly. "And yet you kneel willingly. Why?" Jack's eyes glimmered. "Because sometimes, what looks like surrender is strength in disguise." The Empress took a step closer, her voice firm but curious. "Explain." Jack took a breath and began. "On Earth, humans have a saying. Sometimes you have to bend like the reed in the wind to survive the storm. It means that by choosing when to yield, you keep your roots strong. You do not break." Saralith studied him. This human spoke with strange wisdom. Was it experience or something deeper? "To survive in your empire," Jack continued, "I must understand how you think, how you rule. I must wait for the right moment to act." The Empress crossed her arms. "Many have waited for moments hoping to change their fate. Few succeed." Jack nodded. "True, but every success starts with patience." Saralith decided to test him further. "If you are so patient, then you will accept my challenges. Fail, and you will be discarded." Jack smiled again, calm and steady. "I accept." She motioned for her guards to bring forward a device. It was a strange machine, designed to test mental strength. The Empress explained, "This will challenge your mind and spirit. If you break, your fate is sealed." Jack allowed the device to be attached to his head. Lights flickered, and images appeared in his mind. Visions of fear, pain, and failure. Many would have faltered here, but Jack focused on a single thought: survival. Minutes passed like hours. Saralith watched carefully. The human's face remained steady, eyes closed but calm. When the test ended, Jack opened his eyes, breathing slowly but unbroken. The Empress was surprised. "Few endure that trial." Jack's voice was quiet but firm. "Because I refuse to give up." Saralith nodded slowly. "Your mind is strong, but strength alone will not save you in this empire." Jack smiled. "I know, but strength combined with understanding, that is power." The Empress paused, considering his words. Could this human teach her something? Or was he merely clever in his words? For the first time, Saralith felt a spark of respect for the prisoner before her. She decided to speak openly. "Tell me, Jack, what do you want from this place? From me?" Jack looked directly at her. "I want to live. I want to prove that humans are not weak. And I want to find a way to make your empire better. Not through force, but through respect." Saralith's eyes narrowed. "Respect? From a prisoner?" Jack nodded. "Yes. Respect is earned, not taken, and it begins with understanding and patience." The Empress considered this. Many rulers ruled through fear, but that only bred rebellion. Perhaps there was truth in Jack's words. "Very well," she said. "You will stay here under my watch. But I will speak with you often. If you can teach me what humans know, then maybe you will have a place here." Jack's heart lifted. This was more than he hoped for. As the Empress turned to leave, Jack called out softly, "Thank you." She glanced back, surprised by the gratitude. "Do not mistake this for kindness. Human. This is a test. Jack smiled. I wouldn't have it any other way. Left alone, Jack sat quietly, thinking. The Empress's challenge was real, but so was his resolve. This was no ordinary prison. It was a chance to show that humanity's greatest strength was not in weapons or numbers, but in the spirit that refused to bow, even when asked to kneel. Days passed in the shadowed halls of the alien palace. Jack found himself no longer just a prisoner, but something more. A guest under close watch and a curiosity for Empress Sarilith. Their conversations had become frequent, each one revealing new truths about their very different worlds. One afternoon, Sarilith sat across from Jack in a small chamber filled with star maps and glowing data screens. The air was thick with tension and unspoken questions. Our empire is strong, Sarilith began, her eyes scanning the swirling galaxy displayed before them. But there are those within my court who do not trust your presence here. They see you as a threat. Jack leaned forward, interest sharp. Why do they fear me? Sarilith shrugged slightly. Because you are an unknown. Because you speak of change. And because, unlike others, you do not beg for mercy. Jack smiled. Humans do not fear change. We face it. Sarilith studied him. I believe you, but I also know that change can destroy. Jack's expression grew serious. Change can also save. Your empire is vast, but it is fragile. The cracks are growing. The Empress looked away, the weight of her rule pressing down on her. There are rebellions, plots, factions that want to take power from me. Jack nodded. I've seen that before. Back on Earth, nations rise and fall, but the strongest survive by building alliances, not by ruling alone. Sarilith's gaze returned to him. You suggest an alliance? Yes, Jack said. Not just between us, but between your empire and the people who want peace. If you trust me, I can help you understand how to unite them. The Empress hesitated. To trust a prisoner was risky, yet something in Jack's calm confidence convinced her that he might be right. Very well, Sarilith said slowly. You will help me. But if you betray me, you will face the consequences. Jack agreed without hesitation. I have no desire to betray. I want to prove that humans can be trusted. Sarilith nodded, a small smile crossing her lips. Then let us begin. Together they began to study the political landscape of the empire. Jack used his knowledge of diplomacy and human history to suggest ways to bring the factions together. He advised Sarilith to listen more to her people, to offer respect instead of fear, and to build trust through shared goals. It will not be easy, Jack warned, but if you show strength and fairness, others will follow. Sarilith was impressed. She had ruled through power and control, but Jack's ideas opened her eyes to another way. The idea of ruling through respect was new, yet strangely appealing. As days turned into weeks, their alliance grew stronger. Sarilith began to trust Jack's counsel, and Jack learned more about the Empire's struggles and hopes. One evening, as they reviewed reports of unrest in a distant system, Sarilith asked quietly, Why do you help me? What do you gain? Jack looked at her steadily. I want to show that humans can rise above their past, that even a prisoner can be more than a victim, and because I believe that peace benefits everyone, even an empire. Sarilith nodded slowly, understanding more. Then she led on. You are unlike any human I have known. Jack smiled. And you are unlike any ruler I have met. Their conversations were interrupted by a sudden alarm. The palace sensors detected an approaching fleet, not from their empire, but from a rival power known for ruthless conquest. Sarilith's face hardened. They come to test us. Jack stood beside her, ready. Then we will show them what we are made of. In that moment, the Empress and the human prisoner stood as unlikely allies, united by a common goal, to protect the Empire from threats both outside and within. Their secret alliance had begun, but the true challenges were yet to come. The warning, Bells echoed through the vast corridors of the alien palace. Outside, the sky darkened with the approaching fleet of the rival power. The Empress Sarilith stood on the observation deck, eyes fixed on the distant ships. Her calm mask hid the storm. Inside. Beside her, Jack remained quiet, his mind racing. The peace they had worked to build was fragile, and now it was being tested by war. "Your people prepare for battle," Jack said, breaking the silence. Sarilith nodded. "Many question your presence here. They say you are a spy, a threat to the Empire." Jack looked at her steadily. "I am no spy. I stand with you." "But they do not believe that," she said. "You must prove your loyalty." Jack understood the weight of her words. To survive here, he needed not only to live, but to earn trust from a court full of suspicion and power plays. "Tell me what I must do," Jack said. Sarilith's eyes sharpened. "There is a mission, a test. A small team must travel to the outer colonies to secure an important resource. If you succeed, it will prove your loyalty and worth." Jack nodded. "I accept." The next day, Jack joined a team of soldiers and diplomats. The mission was dangerous, with threats from enemy spies and hostile environments. Jack's human training and quick thinking helped the team avoid traps and outsmart ambushes. On the way, some team members watched Jack closely, their faces filled with doubt or dislike. But Jack did not show anger. Instead, he earned their respect by staying calm, sharing ideas, and protecting the group. One night, as they camped under strange stars, a soldier approached Jack quietly. "Why do you fight for them?" "For us." Jack looked up at the sky. "Because I believe in the chance to change. To show that even when things seem impossible, we can find a better way." The soldier nodded slowly. "Maybe you're right." Days later, the team reached the outer colony. The resource they sought was vital, a rare energy crystal needed to power the Empire's defenses. But the colony was in chaos, caught between rival factions fighting for control. Jack stepped forward, using diplomacy instead of force. He spoke to the leaders of both sides, reminding them of the greater threat outside their walls. Slowly, the fighting stopped, and an uneasy truce formed. With the resource secured, the team prepared to return. Jack's leadership and calm had turned a dangerous mission into a success. Back at the palace, Sarilith awaited their return. When Jack stepped before her, she studied his face. "You have passed the test," she said simply. Jack bowed his head, slightly. "Thank you. But this is only the beginning," Sarilith warned. "There are those who will try to tear us apart. Your loyalty will be tested again." Jack met her gaze. "I am ready." In the days that followed, Jack's place in the Empire grew stronger. His actions had won some respect, but also new enemies. Some nobles whispered behind closed doors, plotting to remove the human who dared to stand beside the Empress. Yet Jack remained steady. He knew that trust was built slowly, brick by brick, and that every challenge was part of a larger struggle. One evening, as Sarilith and Jack discussed plans in her private chamber, a message arrived, an urgent warning of a traitor within the palace. Sarilith's eyes darkened. "The court is more dangerous than any battlefield." Jack nodded. "Then we must be careful and watch each other's backs." Together, they prepared for the trials ahead. The test of loyalty was not only about battle or missions, it was about surviving the web of politics and betrayal. Jack had proven he could fight, but now he needed to prove he could survive. And through it all, the human who once knelt before, the Empress stood taller than ever, ready to face whatever came next. The palace corridors were alive with whispers. The presence of a human advisor, once a prisoner, was unsettling many nobles. Some saw Jack as a threat, others a curiosity. But for Empress Sarilith, he had become more than just a captive or an advisor. He was a symbol of change. That morning, Sarilith summoned Jack to the throne room. The grand chamber, once cold and empty during his capture, now felt alive with possibilities. "Jack," Sarilith began, her voice steady. You have changed much in a short time. Your ideas, your patience, it is unlike anything my empire has known. Jack bowed respectfully. Thank you, Empress. I only speak what I have learned from my people and from observing your empire. Sarilith smiled faintly. And yet, you have taught me the power of respect, not fear. That is a lesson I will not forget. Jack looked at her, sincerity shining in his eyes. Respect builds trust. Trust builds strength. Together they create something more lasting than fear ever could. Sarilith nodded thoughtfully. Your wisdom surprises me. Many would expect a human to be weak, but you are strong in ways I did not understand. Jack's expression softened. Strength is not just in power or weapons. It is in the spirit, the will to keep going even when the odds are against you. At that moment, a group of nobles entered the chamber. They had come to question the Empress's new alliance with a human. Their voices were cold and sharp. This is a mistake, Your Majesty, one said. A human cannot be trusted. They will bring ruin to our empire. Sarilith stood firm, her gaze steady. Jack has proven his loyalty and wisdom. I will not reject what he offers. Another noble sneered. You risk everything for a prisoner? Jack stepped forward, calm but firm. I was a prisoner, yes, but I am also a human, a species known for rising from hardship. I am here because I earned it, not because it was given. The nobles murmured, some surprised by his confidence, others angry. Sarilith raised her hand, silencing the room. This empire must grow. We cannot survive by clinging to old fears. If we do, we will fall. Her words carried weight. Some nobles looked away while others clenched their fists, but no one dared to argue further. After the nobles left, Sarilith turned to Jack. You have sparked change, not just in me, but in others. But change is never easy. Jack smiled gently. I understand, but it is necessary. Days later, Sarilith and Jack visited a nearby colony where unrest had begun to grow. The people were tired of harsh rulers and endless conflict. Jack spoke with the colony leaders, sharing stories of human resilience and hope. He listened carefully to their concerns and offered solutions based on cooperation and respect. The colony leaders were surprised by the human's honesty and calm. They began to trust him, and slowly, peace returned. As they traveled back to the palace, Sarilith said quietly, You have a gift, Jack. You see things differently, and that is what this empire needs. Jack looked at her, hope rising inside. Together we can build a better future. Back at the palace, news arrived that a rival faction had tried to stir rebellion but failed. The unity they were building was stronger than expected. Sarilith stood on her balcony, looking out at the stars. Jack joined her, the night sky vast and full of possibilities. Do you ever miss Earth? Sarilith asked softly. Jack nodded. Sometimes, but I feel I belong here now too. The Empress smiled. You have become more than a prisoner. You are a part of this empire's future. Jack looked up at the stars. And this empire has become a part of mine. In that moment, respect had awakened between two worlds, two spirits and two leaders ready to face whatever the galaxy would bring. The stars outside the palace window seemed calm, but inside, tension filled the air like a storm about to break. Empress Sarilith and Jack stood side by side, watching reports of a new threat, a massive fleet from a distant and ruthless enemy, known simply as the Drather. They moved with speed and power, leaving destruction in their wake. We cannot ignore this, Sarilith said, her voice steady but heavy. The Drather will not stop until they control everything. Jack nodded. This is more than a battle. It is a test of everything we have built. The trust, the alliances, the strength of this empire. Sarilith turned to him. We need a plan. And fast. Jack thought carefully. We must unite every faction, every species, under a common goal. If they see the enemy as a threat to all, they will fight together, the Empress agreed. But many still doubt us. Many still see you as an outsider. Jack smiled quietly. Then I must show them why I am here. Over the next days, Sarilith and Jack worked tirelessly. They called councils with leaders from across the Empire, sharing plans, offering hope, and asking for trust. Jack's calm and honest words helped ease old wounds. His human determination inspired others to believe in the possibility of unity. But not everyone was convinced. Some factions prepared for their own gain, hoping to use the chaos for power. One night, as Jack and Sarilith discussed their next move, a trusted messenger arrived with troubling news. A faction within the Empire plans to betray us, the messenger said urgently. They will open our defenses to the Drather. Sarilith's eyes narrowed. Betrayal within? We face enemies on two fronts. Jack's jaw tightened. Then we must act quickly. Trust must be earned, but we cannot wait. Together they formed a small team to uncover the traitors. Jack's skills in reading people and understanding motives proved invaluable. He worked closely with Sarilith's loyal guards, moving quietly through the palace halls, gathering clues. As the Drather fleet drew closer, the pressure grew. Every moment was precious. Finally, they discovered the traitors, a group of nobles who feared losing their power. With evidence in hand, Sarilith confronted them before the council. You have betrayed this empire, she said, voice cold and fierce. Your actions endanger us all. The nobles tried to deny it, but Jack stepped forward. Your greed blinds you to the real enemy. If the Drather win, none of you will keep your power. The room fell silent. The council voted to imprison the traitors and strengthen defenses. With the Empire united, the battle began. Jack stood on the command bridge beside Sarilith as the Drather fleet approached. The space was alive with activity, ships moving into position, weapons charging, orders being shouted. The Empress turned to Jack. This is the moment we have prepared for. Jack nodded. We fight not just for survival, but for the future we believe in. The battle was fierce. Laser beams streaked across the dark sky. Ships dodged and weaved, explosions lighting up the void. Jack's quick thinking and human ingenuity helped coordinate unexpected maneuvers that caught the enemy off guard. Hours passed like minutes. The tide of battle shifted again and again. Finally, the Drather fleet began to retreat. Cheers erupted across the command bridge. Sarilith smiled, pride shining in her eyes. You have proven yourself, Jack, not just as a warrior, but as a leader. Jack shook his head humble. We all fought together. That is the true strength. As the stars settled back into peaceful silence, Sarilith looked at Jack with new respect. The human who once knelt before her had become a symbol of hope and unity. The galaxy had changed forever. The galaxy was quiet once more. The great battle against the Drather had ended, leaving scars but also hope. Empress Sarilith stood on the balcony of her palace, looking out at the stars that stretched endlessly before her. Beside her stood Jack, the human who had once been a prisoner, now a trusted ally and friend. The journey from captive to leader had been long and difficult. But Jack's courage, wisdom, and quiet strength had changed more than just a single empire. They had changed the way many saw humans, and themselves. Sarilith turned to Jack, her voice soft but filled with meaning. You were once ordered to kneel before me. At the time, I thought it was a sign of submission. Jack smiled gently. It was, in a way. But it was also a choice. A choice? The Empress asked, curious. Yes, Jack said. I chose to kneel because it was the best way to listen, to understand. I knew that real power was not in fighting alone, but in knowing when to wait and when to act. Sarilith nodded slowly. You taught me that strength is more than force. It is respect, patience, and trust. Jack looked out at the stars. And it is hope. The Empress smiled. Your legacy will live on in this empire. You have shown that even the smallest act like kneeling can change the course of history. Jack looked back at her. This is not just my legacy. It belongs to all of us who believe in something better. Together they watched as new ships took flight from the Empire's docks. ships carrying peacekeepers, explorers, and diplomats. The galaxy was ready for a new era. News arrived that distant systems once hostile were opening talks for alliance. The story of the human who knelt but never gave up had spread far and wide, inspiring many. One day, Jack received a message from Earth. His homeworld had heard of his courage and wisdom. They welcomed him as a hero. Jack felt a deep pride but also a responsibility. I represent not just myself, but all of humanity. Sarilith placed a hand on his shoulder. And you represent the future we will build together. Years passed, and Jack's role in the Empire grew. He helped create schools where young leaders from many worlds learned the value of respect and unity. He worked with Sarilith to ensure the Empire remained strong but kind. The Empress often said, "You have changed my life, Jack. You have changed this galaxy." Jack replied simply, "We changed it together." In quiet moments, Jack thought, back to the day he first knelt before Sarilith, when he was a prisoner facing a queen. He had felt fear then, but also hope. Now he understood that sometimes the greatest power is in choosing to kneel, not to show weakness, but to prepare to rise stronger than ever. And so, the legacy of the human who knelt became a story told across stars, a reminder that strength, courage, and respect could unite even the most different worlds. The galaxy would never be the same,